Breaking right now, growing questions over Meghan Markle's friendship with Jamie Kern-Lima and why they bonded. The Royal Rogue posted on X doing some research about Jamie Kern-Lima, and it's brutal how she grew a makeup business from 0 to 1 billion plus L'Oreal acquisition in 8 years. That was pure grind on QVC, a sales TV channel where she appeared up to 200 times a year. She acted and sounded way more authentic back then, though. Meghan could never. But they are friends right now. Lima says it like 1,000 times during the interview, so they must have something in common that we don't know. And what he's getting at is the fact that Jamie Kern-Lima, and she has posted about this on Instagram, she's very open about it, is one of the world's most famous parents via a surrogate. She's been incredibly open about being on that journey. And the suggestion, Lady Colin Campbell, seems to be that maybe that's the way that these two women bonded. What do you think?
Well, incidentally, Dan, to answer the question but make an observation, she was also adopted. Jamie Kern-Lima was adopted, and of course I have 2 adopted children, so, and she loved her mother, so I think I give her full marks for that. You can depend on it that Meghan will never admit to anybody that she did anything but pushed those 2 babies out from between, and I don't need to describe any further, because also we're not going to go down channels that are so heavily trafficked, but in more ways than one, if you get my drift. But the fact of the matter is that there would be a bond, and it doesn't have to be a declared bond, because Jamie Kern-Lima will know that many people believe that Meghan's children were delivered via surrogacy and not via nature. So could that be a bond? I think where Meghan is concerned, all dollar bills are green, and everything in the world needs to be green, and everything else, I think, is basically of little or no importance. That's just my take on her as a personality. I could be wrong, but I don't think that you will find that there is going to be loads of confessions and conversations. Meghan is what is known as a pathological liar. She lies to everybody, and she lies even when she's caught out in a lie. She tells another one to cover up for that lie and to explain her way out of the lie.
Let's start with this nuclear take. Lady Colin Campbell says Meghan Markle deliberately gained weight after giving birth to make her pregnancy appear more authentic. That's a wild accusation, but according to Lady C, it wasn't random, it was calculated. According to her and many online speculators, the timelines, the bump sizes, the photos, they all allegedly didn't add up. Meghan noticed the scrutiny and boom, weight gain post-delivery. And not just with Archie but the same playbook with Lilibet. This whole theory is a lightning rod. And while there's no hard proof, only speculation, what's clear is this. Lady C believes Meghan played the optics game like a pro.
And there is no doubt that whatever happened during those pregnancies, the whole thing was highly irregular, and those baby bumps performed in a way that no woman who has given birth recognizes them as having functioned. And I have spoken to doctors, nurses, endless women who've given birth, and they all say the same thing. Of course, Meghan has been clever enough that once she realized that the press were onto her and that she'd better do something about it, she made sure that she gained weight after Archie's birth. And let's not forget that she was then aware that there was a tremendous amount of interest primarily on social media by people who had investigated the issue. And they observed that Meghan had never gained weight during her pregnancy. The weight gain came after her pregnancy. And so her response for the next delivery was that she gained some weight before Lily was born, and has the photographs to prove it. So Archie showing that he was inspired by Tom Daley. Let's go diving.
Now, Lady C, I have to speak about some odd antics with Prince Harry this week, which have been very much overshadowed by Meghan's glut of publicity, which we know, by the way, is all to distract from the fact that Confessions of a Female Founder, her new podcast, has been a massive flop, has fallen out of the top 100. So that's why we're getting this huge amount of publicity. But Harry was acting very strangely at this Living Legends of Aviation event. And I just want to show you a couple of pictures first up. So this was the Commentator USA who posted on X, "Hey Harry, is that a shiner?" And actually, I've looked very closely at the image, which was run on People magazine, because lots of people online were trying to say, oh, it's been manipulated in some way. But obviously People magazine had put the red circle, but we don't know if it's been manipulated. What we do know, however, is that he was incredibly unhappy on the night. Now, there's potentially a whole load of reasons for that. I mean, as Meghan's mole pointed out, Prince William was attending the funeral of Prince Francis while Prince Harry was cracking jokes for Hollywood elites like a clown. What a difference. He'd been dragged to New York for that Meghan Time 100 event, even though Meghan wasn't in the Time 100, where he sort of had to clap along like a bag carrier, and he didn't look very happy in that moment. Have a look at this.
Meanwhile, Prince Harry seems to be spiraling, or at least really awkward. Lady C and Dan break down a bizarre moment at a celebrity event, where Harry stayed for just 11 minutes, looked visibly miserable and possibly even had a black eye. And let's not forget the jab from actor Kurt Russell about picking berries for Meghan's raspberry soup. That wasn't just a joke. It was a Hollywood roast wrapped in shade. And Harry had to sit there and take it.
Then he turns up to give his own speech, Lady Colin Campbell, and he goes off script, and it just doesn't go well at all. And as it turned out, he was literally at the event for like 11 minutes. He was pictured arriving on stage at 7:15 p.m., leaving at 7:26 p.m. And even though I haven't been able to find video of this, Lady C, Kurt Russell said, "Unfortunately, living legend Harry has to leave early tonight. Who else will pick the berries for his wife's raspberry soup?" Which obviously is sort of going to be like a punch in the guts for Harry, isn't it? Because, you know, Lady C, there's always great truth in comedic lines like that. So what's going on? Do you think he's injured himself in some way? And why was he acting so weirdly at this event? I'm looking at you, Lady C. Scratch, itchy nose. Another itchy nose.
No idea at all. But, you know, I mean, maybe he collided with a door. I mean, there are many people when they're happily married who collide with doors. It's very often actually a sign of how happy a marriage is, that people collide with doors. And maybe he collided with a door. It's quite possible, but it's also possible that when he was colliding with the door, or maybe before he collided with the door, or maybe after he collided with the door, he was so discombobulated that he slipped and fell. I mean, these are things that happen, especially when you are a turbulent partner in a turbulent relationship. Of course, I mean, anybody can slip and fall and hurt themselves. And I would not be at all surprised that Harry slipped and fell and hurt himself. The thing is, sorry, why was the makeup not done better? I mean, Meghan knows all about concealment. I make that point for what it's worth.
They needed to get Jamie Kern-Lima there, didn't they? Now, I mean, what's most astonishing is that we learn that his fee to appear at these events, Lady Colin Campbell, is between $500,000 to $750,000. But I think what shocked me is that we now know he's so desperate for money. So it's Gotham artists who are looking after his public appearances, right? But usually, Lady C, if you're a big name and you are trying to get that sort of money, but you also want to maintain some sort of dignity or some type of class, you say to your agency, or your agency agrees with you, that you're not actually going to put your fee publicly on the website. But Harry is now listed with that fee under the category big names, headliners, star power. And again, Lady C, I just thought, wow, this shows you not only how desperate he is, but just how much Megxit hasn't worked. Because imagine if 5 years ago you were saying he was going to be literally pimping himself out to any organization that could afford $500,000. You can buy your prince.
This one is jaw-dropping. Prince Harry's speaking fees are now publicly listed by his agency. That's right, anyone with $500,000 can rent a Duke. And according to Lady C, that alone proves how far the Sussex brand has fallen. Dan Wootton calls it what it is: desperation. Lady C calls it prostitution of royal rank. From a prince with purpose to a pay-for-play ex-royal, the optics are brutal.
Well, Dan, you're absolutely right. And if you recall, he got $1 million from JP Morgan when they were still in Canada, if I remember correctly.
Yes, and a private jet, and it was to Miami, I think, wasn't it?
And they spent the night at Serena Williams's house. It's outside of Boca Raton. I can't remember exactly where it was, but it's near where one of my sisters lives, and so he got $1 million for that. The mere fact that they are putting that his fee is $500 to $750 tells me that in fact that is the optimistic figure. But that, as I'm sure you will know, is code for you will be able to get him for much less, but everybody is going to think outside of the industry that this is what you had to pay for him. And the press will go with the fact. So say you're going to get him for much less, but you're going to have the benefit of the prestige of being able to boast and say that you got him for between $500 and $750. Don't you think that's a part of the equation?
Of course, but I mean, it's still utterly mortifying.
Distasteful. I mean, it shows how the depths to which they have sunk. It shows to what extent Megxit has failed. It shows how desperate they are to hustle, and that they are royals for rent. You know, they used to mock Prince and Princess Michael, who were never, ever on the civil list, incidentally. And whenever they did charity things, they had to pay out of their own pockets for cars, etc. But the press used to mock Prince and Princess Michael as royals for rent, because sometimes they were given fees for attending events. Now, I happen to know what those fees were because I happen to know some of the people who paid them. But I'm not going there. I'm simply using that as an example of how the press mocked Prince and Princess Michael unfairly because they were not on the civil list, but nobody is mocking Harry and Meghan as they are prostituting themselves and their royal rank in a desperate attempt to fund a billionaire lifestyle and hopefully turn themselves, and it's folly, it's not a realistic hope, into billionaires. It's never going to happen. I mean, she would have to sell so many hundreds of millions of pots of sick flavored raspberry flavored vomit that I mean, and who's going to
you don't become a billionaire from jam. I mean, this is the thing. She's not a business brain.
Here's where the tension explodes. Meghan says she might write a memoir, but has more life to live first. Lady C sees this for what it is. A strategic pause, likely waiting for the post-divorce era to write a real tell-all. Dan Wootton even claims Vanity Fair confirmed she's already shopping the idea around. And if true, that's not just a book, that's a nuclear option. One she's saving for when the real money is on the table.
Because if she'd had any sense, she would have launched a cosmetic range. That is where you become the billionaire. That's where Rihanna and Kylie Jenner and all of those people have made all of their money. But she's not a great business brain at all. Lady C, though, there was a threat this week. Now, we've been talking about this for ages, right? We have been talking about it for so long that Meghan doesn't want to write her autobiography yet because ideally she wants to do it post-divorce, because that's where the real money will be. It will set her up for the rest of her life. And also, it's very awkward if she writes a book now and has to say lots of positive things about Prince Harry when after the divorce, she's going to want to throw him under the bus along with every member of the royal family. And in the interview with Jamie Kern-Lima, I mean, there's so much from it, so this has been lost a little bit this week. She specifically raises the prospect of a memoir. And there is very much an undertone of threat in her answer because she says, not yet, Harry, not yet. Watch what she said and then I'll get your reaction.
Ever write another book?
Yes, maybe, for sure. I think, I love right now working on everything in the space of hospitality and home and entertaining and food and those sort of tips, and something like that I think could be really fun. Of course, children's books are great. And then, I think people are often curious if I'm going to write a memoir, but I've got a lot more life to live before I'm there.
A lot more life to live. A divorce to live. Because, of course, Lady C, look, we'd been reporting it for years, but this went mainstream when Vanity Fair confirmed the fact that she had been shopping the post-divorce book to publishing companies in their big expose on 5 years of Megxit. So the threat is still there. It's like she thinks she's been clever, but it's so obvious that the threat is now there, not just to the royal family, but to Prince Harry too.
Lady C doesn't stop at PR. She goes deep on Meghan's persona, arguing that Meghan uses Cartier jewelry, luxury convoys, and curated media leaks to appear high status. But beneath the surface, she calls it insecurity masked as elitism. She compares Meghan to real royals, saying they don't have to flaunt wealth to prove their worth. Meghan, she argues, is still scraping the bottom of the barrel in class terms, even if her earrings scream Cartier.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. But the fact of the matter is, Dan, her technique is to threaten and to imply and to get people to pick up the knife that she throws down. I mean, she's actually a very sneaky, rather cowardly, underhand bully and abuser. And she's going to write a memoir, but she has more life to live yet. Well, she better be careful, because I can tell you something. There is no way Meghan would make, no matter how sensational and how much her memoirs were and how many people believe them, there is no way she would make more than about $20 million tops. She would have to pay tax on that. She would, so she's going to end up with a lot less than 20 million. And I'm afraid the way she lives, 20 million is not going to go very far. So anybody who thinks that that would set her up for life is wrong. It would set her up for a year, 2, maybe 3, if she pulls in the reins, 4 years tops. And she needs all of the status symbols that go along with being a member of the elite, because she knows without them, she is exposed as the tacky, rather sordid little creature that she is. So while a genuine princess or a proper duchess will show up at the event without security, she needs to show up with 4 vehicles. And where a proper princess or a royal duchess would wear a pair of earrings and maybe a necklace that was worth £800,000, but you wouldn't know it. Meghan has to wear something worth $10,000 or $20,000 and leak it to everybody that it came from Cartier or one of those jewelry houses that she's pushing, as if, and often it's $3,000, $4,000, as if classy people are going to be interested in buying that rubbish. Now, I'm not denigrating the fact that people can't afford the £800,000 parole. What I am denigrating is her pretentiousness in setting herself up as this superior being, when in fact, to people who rarely know about these things, she is still scraping along the bottom of the barrel in a very real sense of the word. It's pathetic.
So what are we seeing here? A master strategist playing the long game, or a crumbling brand trying to squeeze the last drops of royal relevance before the money runs out? Lady C calls Meghan a pathological liar. Dan calls Harry a rented prince. And behind all the headlines, there's a question we still haven't answered. How long can this media machine keep running before it collapses under its own contradictions? And there you have it, one of the wildest, most ruthless royal takedowns we've seen in months. If you're still watching, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and drop a comment below. Do you think Meghan is planning a post-divorce memoir? Or are critics just obsessed with bringing her down? Let's debate.